Let's present the agribusiness lobby in Brazil by beginning the presentation with the factors shaping interest group system in Brazil. The military is still a political force in Brazil. It's not only protecting the country from potential external threats, it's also protecting the law and the domestic order. The military police has a special status. It's not part of the civilian police and is not under the responsibility of the legislation of the civil jurisdiction. The military force can have strong actions, especially during demonstrations. Brazil is the fifth Latin American country in maldistribution of wealth. There are notable inequalities within regions. The north is the poorest area, whereas the south is the richest one. According to statistics, 2% of landowners own 50% of the total land. Corruption is a dishonest behavior by those in position of power. Corruption is due to political culture. It's changing the attitude of the public, the level of legitimacy, and also the level of acceptance. Now let's talk about lobbying strategies and tactics employed by lobbying entities. The first one are political elites. They are traditional power because they have been created during colonial times. They are informal and not institutionalized groups. They are represented by the Catholic Church, the military, the few hands of landowners. The characteristics are the close social relationships, the civil society elites, the group government interactions, and the corrupt practices. The second one is the private sector. It's permitted by the public affairs departments of businesses such as associations or individuals. It's providing information, it's monitoring of political, it's looking for alias, and it's improving the public image of business associations or companies. The third one is Labour Party mixed with labor unions and professional unions. They are proposing legislations and popular initiatives to their members, and they are diffusing and producing publications such as texts and sources of information. The fourth one are local and state governmental lobbying. The actors can be anyone working for the government, such as ministries, public companies. They do pressure on executive and Congress to maintain the status of the lobby and the budget. They are providing information to the public agencies and they are influencing the members who will do reports on bills in Congress. The fifth one are the new and outsider interest group. The first one is part of the Brazilian topicality, like the defense of women, the human rights, and the second one are outsider, like students, like indigenous rights. The characteristics are the mass lobbying techniques such as email, the mass demonstrations and protests, and the social media for organizing the demonstrations. The last lobby are consulting firms like publicity, communication, law firms. They are defending particular interests from businesses and trade associations. They are the facilitators with public officials. They are helping the client with the political pressure and they are making meetings.
Now let's talk about the stakeholders' mobilization in lobbying. Many stakeholders are present in this lobby at the political or economic level. For example, Mrs. Costa became Minister of Agriculture, but she's also part of the biggest lobby of Brazilian agribusiness. This symbol is very clear. There are powerful actors in agribusiness who are chosen to lead the public authorities. Moreover, Brazil has become a major supplier of China in agricultural commodities. Therefore, China now accounts for 39% of the total agri-food exports of the major South American countries. Suddenly, international investors for the Brazilian beef industry became other stakeholders.
The current regime of property in Brazil also influenced policymaking regarding deforestation and agribusiness. There is indeed 80 million hectares currently undesignated in Brazil. Those lands are for one to grab. Because many individuals are claiming those lands, it is then necessary to determine whose forest that is. Legislation on that topic is still unclear. There is two opposing laws that coexist. The first one is the reform of the land. It states that anyone that turned an unused land into a productive one can claim ownership. The easiest and cunning solution to prove its productivity is then to clear the forest. The second one is the forest code. It forces landowners in designated areas to keep 80% of their land as forest. That percentage was lowered to 65% in 2012. This reform could jeopardize 15 million hectares. On the one hand, the Forest Code imposes harsh regulation on their ownership and forces them to set aside a portion of their property that could potentially be productive. On the other hand, clearing the forest offers quick and significant rewards. The scale leans then often towards deforestation. It is the lack of clear law that leaves the choice to individuals. That is why lawmakers need to clarify the situation. Agribusiness lobbyists will of course try to influence decision-making to benefit their industry and maintain that gray zone.
Now let's talk about the consequences of this lobby. There are three main consequences on the social, the environmental, and the political situation. For example, many social movements have emerged in the beginning of 2019, leading to the 23rd of July when a Waipitin Indian was found dead in a protected reserve in the north of the country. While President Bolsonaro would like to abolish the exclusivity of the lands for the indigenous people, on the other hand, the agri-food lobby is also a bad thing for the planet because of deforestation, construction of new infrastructures, carbon emissions, etc. For Bolsonaro, the environment is an obstacle to the development of the country. Alexandre Muller said he wants to end what he calls the environmental finance industry. The Brazilian president wants to focus on hydropower and intends to create the tar of Amazonia. And carbon emissions have increased by almost 25% because of deforestation. This is leading to big questions in the Brazilian democratic process, because the Brazilian electoral system seems to be completely polluted by the money.